Vic Galloway on BBC Radio Scotland.
I'm Vic Galloway, this is BBC Radio Scotland and BBC Sounds. Welcome musician, producer, former Cocteau twin and Bella Union label boss, genuine polymath, Simon Raymonde. Welcome to the programme.
Well, thank you very much. What an introduction.
Well, it's all true. It's all true. You have a new book out, In One Ear, Cocteau Twins, Ivor and Me, and you're here to choose some records, talk about the book, your life and career. You've got loads of great records that you've chosen. Let's start off with a piece of music. The Kinks, Sunny Afternoon. Why this?
Yeah, because, 1966, I'm just a wee boy of four and a half, five perhaps. It's a classic pop song. I mean, it is way ahead of its time.
The taxman's taken all my dough and left me in my stately home, blazing on a sunny afternoon. And I can't sail my yacht, he's taken everything I got. All I've got's this sunny afternoon. Save me, save me, save me from this squeeze. I got a big fat mama trying to break me, and I love to live so pleasantly. Live this life of luxury, blazing on a sunny afternoon. Summertime, in the summertime, in the summertime. My girlfriend's run off with my car and gone back to her ma and pa, telling tales of drunkenness and cruelty. Now I'm sitting here, sipping at my ice cold beer, blazing on a sunny afternoon. Help me, help me, help me sail away. Well, give me two good reasons why I ought to stay. 'Cause I love to live so pleasantly. Live this life of luxury, blazing on a sunny afternoon. In the summertime, in the summertime, in the summertime.
That was a song that, I still listen to now. And whenever I hear it, I always just think about being in my house with my brothers and sisters, who were massive pop music fans, and I know they would have played that 7-inch on the little, turntable, one of those ones you put it on and all the records drop down.
Great. Well, a good one to get us started, the Kinks and Sunny Afternoon. But you had a fairly tricky relationship with your parents in a way. You were sent to boarding school.
Yeah, I got on okay with them, but I think this is very much a generational thing. Well, I'd like to hope so, because I certainly don't have that kind of relationship with my kids. I would say, they'll probably disagree, but I would say my kids are friends. Totally different kind of relationship with them than my parents did. But I don't think that was unusual in the 60s. It was very much a case of speak when you're spoken to, or in my case, just don't speak at all. Go up to your room and stay there. Just keep out of the way in general. I just think that's how parents were. I don't think it was unique to me, but it definitely, with my father being away for so much of my childhood, I definitely felt they were very distant. Yeah, not huggy kind of parents, not affectionate in any way. But I got on with them okay up to a point.
And your dad, you and he sort of bonded on football. You've mentioned Spurs specifically. Spurs get a lot of mentions in the book, and Tony Hancock as well.
I certainly love Tony Hancock, but I spent most of my life not realizing that my dad was in Tony Hancock, which was the really bizarre thing. So, yeah, I was a fan. I mean, obviously much later when, in the sort of 80s and 90s when you started seeing reruns of those things on the TV. And then I sort of got really obsessed with Tony Hancock, started buying all the old VHS and like the old cassettes and the albums on vinyl and stuff. And I was lying in the bath one day just reading this book that I'd bought, kind of like a sort of compendium of all the episodes on radio and TV of Tony Hancock. I'm just thumbing through it and looking at who were all the characters, because, there's Sid James and Hattie Jakes and all these great character actors from British television. And there's my dad's name in the middle of one of these episodes. And I'm like, what? So I got out of the bath, called my mum, and I'm like, Mum, how did you not tell me that Dad was in Hancock's Half Hour, for God's sake? And she was just like, oh, Simon, you knew that, in that way that she always did. Of course, I didn't know it. She'd never told me, and certainly Dad never told me. So that was a revelation. And I then spent, the next few years just chasing up every episode that he was in. He was no actor. He was a terrible actor. Even as an extra, he was terrible. But amazing for me, to see him, especially as he died so young, and I didn't really have so many memories of him. It was lovely to have those on VHS.
His spectre, I suppose, went through your entire life. It seemed to be there. Let's talk a little bit about him, because it kind of leads us on to one of our next tunes as well. There's a couple of tracks that you've chosen that he has a connection with.
So, yeah, I mean, he started off doing arrangements and stuff for Dusty Springfield. He ended up co-writing I Only Want to Be With You. And I suppose for me, I didn't really get what he did at all until I was much, much older. In fact, way past when he died. And it was only much later in my life when I started thinking about him a lot more and sort of investing a lot of my spare time into finding out about more than just the stuff I already knew, which was the Dusty stuff, the Walker Brothers stuff, the stuff that the headlines that we all knew. I wanted to find out a lot more about him, so I started digging into his career.
But you mentioned the Walker Brothers. Let's hear your second choice, The Sun Ain't Gonna Shine Anymore. Why this particular one?
Oh, well, because it just goes everywhere with me. The Walker Brothers is just such a huge part of my life. I realised what an important part of my dad's life it was. And, to tie the whole thing together with working with Scott Walker myself.
The moon ain't gonna rise in the
something just happened and the phone rang and the BBC called me to ask if we would be interested in doing a BBC prom at the Royal Albert Hall in July 2017. And I mean, I could have knocked me over with a feather. This just was like the dream project to be involved with for me. So I got to curate it and then help put it all together. You know, I don't really enjoy the concert, Vic, if I'm honest, because I'm spending the whole time looking around to see if Scott's there. And if he's, you know, what was he thinking? Is he squirming in his seat? Is he loving it? So I didn't enjoy the show much, but I got back to backstage after it all finished and walked into John Grant's dressing room to say, you know, hi. And there's Scott with his family. And he comes up and he gives me a massive big hug. And I was like, was that okay? And he was like, it was amazing. It was perfect, powerful. And, you know, I could have just ended my life right there. I'm done in this business. I don't need to do anything else. Scott's happy with the prom. I can go to rest in peace now.
One of the tracks you've chosen is the Alan Price set, Simon Smith and his amazing dancing bear. So why this?
Well, I mean, a brilliant song, right? Written by, of course, Randy Newman. Absolutely classic sound. And I remember seeing it on TV when I was a kid and I'd sort of forgotten about it. And then when I was researching my dad's work, I just saw this track come up and I was like, no, he can't surely have worked on that.
I may go out tomorrow if I can borrow a coat to wear. Oh, I'd step out in style with my sincere smile and my dancing bear. Outrageous, allow me, courageous, charming. Oh, who would think a boy and bear could be well accepted everywhere? It's just amazing how fair people can be. Seeing at the nicest places where well-fed faces all stop to stare. Making the grandest entrances, Simon Smith and his dancing bear. They love us, won't they? They feed us, don't they? Oh, who would think a boy and bear could be well accepted everywhere? It's just amazing how fair people can be. Everywhere would be Simon Smith and his dancing bear. It's Simon Smith and the amazing dancing bear.
You know, my already existing love for it from when I remember it as a kid, you know, just multiplied by about 100.
We're going to move on to your next choice, which is by Gilbert O'Sullivan, Alone Again Naturally. Why this?
Well, now this is the sort of probably the first moment I'm like paying attention to music sort of on my own and it meaning something to me as a person rather than my family, as it were. I'm probably 9 years old at this point watching Top of the Pops, and on comes this bizarre looking chap. And I'm quite transfixed with the whole thing. And I remember getting the single from Woolworths, played it to death. And that's probably the first time I had my own single on the dance set. You know, this is my tune. So I do think it's absolutely amazing. But it is a track that sort of got me started, I think, and just made me think, wow, there is a uniqueness to this person.
Yes.
He wasn't like everyone else. He was different. He looked different to everyone else. He looked completely different to everyone else on Top of the Pops. And I think that really stood out to me.
When a little while from now, if I'm not feeling any less sound, I promise myself to treat myself and visit a nearby tower. And climbing to the top, will throw myself off in an effort to make clear to whoever what it's like when you're shattered, left standing in the lurch at a church where people are saying, my God, that's tough, she stood him up. No point in us remaining, we may as well go her touch cut me into little pieces, leaving me to doubt. Talk about God in His mercy. If He really does exist, why did He desert me in my hour of need? I truly am indeed alone again. Naturally, it seems to me that there are more hearts broken in the world that can't be mended, left unattended. What do we do? What do we do?
But, you know, age 15, punk rock times, 1976, it was that kind of time, you know, sort of anarchy, bondage trousers, safety pins. It was like a firework that exploded, and it was pretty to watch for the few minutes that it was in the sky, but then it was kind of all over and you moved on to the next thing. And that's for me what punk was like. It was so important while it was important, and then as soon as it became a kind of high street thing, which it did pretty quickly, I suppose, looking back on it now, I wasn't interested in it. None of me and my friends were interested in it anymore. But, you know, thankfully, post-punk came along, and that was actually a far more interesting time musically than punk had been. We come along to 1979. The music becomes a lot more artful and interesting. 18 is where I started working in a record shop for the first time. And that job in the record shop at Beggar's Banquet is where the start of my whole kind of career that I'm still doing now comes from. When I actually got a job in there, I was like, blimey, this is the greatest job ever. Now, the thing that was unique about the Beggar's shop is there were 3 record labels above the shop, and you actually had to walk through the shop to get to the offices upstairs. You know, you could be in there of a Saturday or, well, just a weekday, and, you know, in walks Nick Cave or Lydia Lunch or Billy Mackenzie from the Associates. And, you know, for us, these people were our gods, you know, so you're just sort of blown away by the fact that you're selling cool records to just people like yourselves, but then you're meeting your heroes. So it felt like a real privilege to work there.
And that brings us along very nicely to our next couple of musical choices, one of which I have never heard. Now, I'm a nerd, Simon, as you well know, but Orbidoig I have never come across before, featuring the vocals of Billy Mackenzie, a track called Nocturnal Operations.
The reason you haven't been able to find very much out about it is because there's barely any knowledge of its existence on anywhere on the internet. It's incredibly difficult to find as a 7-inch. I got the 7-inch because I worked there, and I still got it, and I still think it's one of the coolest records from that period. But that was all we ever saw from that band. There was no follow-up. There was no Peel session. So I thought it'd be nice to have on this show, not just because it's Scottish artists involved, but because it is unique.
wonderful. It just shows you that you're constantly discovering new music, not just new right now, but new from 40 odd years ago. You're obviously a massive fan of Billy Mackenzie because your next choice is The Associates and Club Country.
Well, I mean, definitely one of the most important groups in my life. His voice was sort of so otherworldly to me. It was just at a different level, and his lyrics were so mad and kind of funny and weird and quirky. And Billy, would come in the shop, in the beggar's shop, and bring his 2 grey whippets with him. And he asked me to walk his whippets around the block while he had his meetings upstairs at Situation 2. And I'll never forget that. Imagine what that's like for a 18-year-old kid who's in love with a band, and then the singer, who you just think's incredible, walks in the shop and says, all right, mate, do you mind just taking my dogs around the block? I'm like, so excited. Billy Mackenzie asked me to walk his dogs. That'll live with me forever. I think that's sort of really special.
Yeah.
And I'll never forget that.
The fault is I can find no fault in you. It's all to say it, or I'll say it for you. If we stick around, we're sure to be looked down upon. What better way, or should I say?
You are an ex-Cocteau Twin, or forever Cocteau Twin. Tell us about your initial meeting with Robin and Elizabeth.
Well, the very initial meeting was in that shop. It was very early one morning, about 9:30 in the morning, when Steve, the boss, and I were in early, just opening boxes and stuff, like you do, chatting about the events of the night before or whatever. And there's a little knock on the door, and we'll go and open the door, and there's a girl and two chaps outside, very soft, super softly spoken, and could hardly hear a word they were saying. Turns out they'd come down to deliver the cassette of their first record, Garlands, to Ivo Watts Russell, who was the boss of 4AD, who were one of the labels upstairs from the record shop. That was my first meeting with them. It was really sweet. And then I probably didn't see them for another year and a half or two. And then they moved down to London, and we started seeing a bit more of each other. They were a fan of my little band. I had this little band called The Drowning Crazed. not massively great. And we just began to see each other more and more at gigs. And I would go up and see them playing when they were on tour in the UK with Ivo. We'd drive up and see them. And, you know, it was a very small kind of community. Everybody knew everyone else. And I got myself a little Saturday job working in a recording studio over in Camden. And I invited them over when the bosses were away. And I said, if you want to use the studio, you know, I can let you in and you guys can just get on with it. He liked the idea of coming over and just getting on with it himself. So I said, come over. Well, I don't really know why it happened or how it happened, but it turned out that we just ended up writing some music together. It was all kind of a bit of a blur. I said, well, I thought you were just going to record here in your cell. They went, well, we thought you were asking us to come and write with you. I'm like, no, but let's just do it, shall we? So we just did it. Liz went out to get some food and came back, and this piece of music that Robin and I had just written, completely just out of the blue, when neither of us had a tune prepared because neither of us knew this was going to happen. And this sort of set the template for how, once I eventually did join the band a few months later, this is how we would always do things, just literally go in with nothing and just make it up as we went along. And that's what happened. We had a great day. I went back to my life. They went back to theirs. And then a month later, Robin calls me and asks me to come join the band. And I didn't need very much time to think about it.
Yeah, absolutely. That's incredible because they feel like, so many of the pieces feel like they've been intricately carved amongst the three of you. Yeah, brilliant. Just utterly mind-blowing.
At the time, it just seemed so normal because that's sort of how we'd always done it. Everything was ready. It was almost like just listening to an instrumental without the vocal on it, because that's ultimately what it was. So that's quite weird. And then, of course, Liz coming in and just doing 10 vocals sort of in a row at the end of all the recording is, again, it's quite weird. People don't do that.
If you were going to play someone who'd never heard the band before, a track or two, what would you choose?
The day after my father died, I came back in the studio and wrote this song, Frou Frou Foxes. I was sitting down at the piano and just playing this piece, and Robin kind of walked in before I'd even realised it. I sort of turned around and stopped, and he said, no, don't stop, it sounds amazing, carry on. So I finished that piece, and then he added some guitar, and then Liz the next day did the vocals on it. So, of course, being so close to my dad's death, that track feels very important to me, and I mean, it is a beautiful song. really lovely people, but, you know, they were definitely different from me and my friends. The fact that they were a couple made my sort of arrival and my position within the group dynamic, if you want to call it that, I suppose quite difficult for them as much as me, you know, having this new person just sort of enter their relationship. You know, they were very, at the time anyway, a very loving couple. But of course, you know, there's much publicized issues with drugs over the course of the next 10 years or so. And then of course, after Heaven Las Vegas, Rob and Elizabeth broke up, which then, of course, created a whole another set of, issues to deal with. So it was never straightforward. But what I do sort of think back to a lot is how poorly we communicated as people, just as friends and even internally in the band. We were using the music really to deal with all our problems. Mm-hmm. So anytime we'd know what to say about something, we would just go and write a song, write a piece of music, because that seemed to be the communication that we felt the most comfortable with, strange though that may sound.
Are you still in touch with them? Is there any chance that you'll ever play again together?
Yeah, we're still in touch. I mean, we have to talk to each other about stuff. You know, if a TV show wants to use a tune or whatever, we have to approve it or disapprove it. So there's communication. You know, whenever I see Liz, it's always lovely to see her. I haven't seen Robin for a long time. You know, we aren't great friends anymore, sadly, but that's just sometimes how these things pan out. He lives in France and has done since 2002, I think it was. So I don't think anyone has any interest in a reunion at this point in time. I mean, you never say never, right? Because who knows what circumstance will do. But, you know, we're not getting any younger. And I think whilst it is sad that there isn't much out there for people to watch, there aren't really good live concerts of ours. There's nothing much on YouTube that's of interest. We are now actually more popular than we ever were before.
Definitely.
Especially with young people. You know, our demographic on Spotify for artists, it tells you what age and gender the listeners are. And it's basically 16 to 25-year-old women are listening to Cocteau Twins more than any other age and gender range, which is kind of amazing. Yeah. And it makes me feel really beautiful. So I'm a bit sad that they might never get to see us, but who knows?
Let's move on to another of your music choices. You've chosen Orange Juice, Upwards and Onwards, which is on You Can't Hide Your Love Forever. Why this particular track?
I don't know. I just love it so much. We didn't spend much time with many musicians that we weren't friends with that many, but we were good friends with Grace and Edwin back in the 80s there. And we used to live quite near them and see them a fair bit. I mean, I bought every single Postcard single. I DJ'd last week in a brewery in Brighton, and I pretty much took all of my Postcard singles, and it just sounds so great. He's such a brilliant pop songwriter, Edwin. I mean, what a band. Great musicians and very influential, I think, much more than they're given credit for.
Upwards and onwards, I'd rather fall to the ground and think again, and I'm hoping and praying that those broken time will amending. The kings too close have fallen to the ground, but my ears are deaf to your bright new sound.
with Bella Union, going back to the label, you started in 1997 with Robin Guthrie as mainly a sort of Cocteau Twins and Cocteau's related label.
I signed the Czars, which contained a very nice gentleman from Denver called John Grant, who we still work with today, 26 years later. And the next band we signed was Dirty Three, with Warren Ellis, who we also still work with to this day. So, you know, I look back on it with great fondness to think that, you know, the first two artists we signed we're still working with now. I mean, that's
absolutely
really weird and unusual, given that we actually never intended to have a record label in the first place anyway.
Lawrence Bell from Domino turned to you and said, the 11th year of the label, that's your big year. Tell us about that.
I saw him the day or the week he'd gotten the call about Franz Ferdinand going to 1 million sales, his first 1 million selling record. But doing okay for me was like 20,000, 30,000. You know, anything more than that would just be a miracle. And here was Lawrence with his first 1 million selling record by another great Scottish band. Yeah, and I'm not jealous, but I'm like, man, how do you do it? How do you just keep going when everything seems so awful? And he said, yeah, just wait till your 11th year, you'll be fine. And I'm like, okay, you lunatic, what on earth is he on about? And then in 2008, I signed Fleet Foxes. And by the end of that year, the 11th year of Bella Union, we'd sold 1 million records. In Norway, when I was at a festival called Oya, where as a guest of Klaus, the guy that runs it, I was thinking of jacking the whole thing in, because I was just like, I don't know if I keep continuing recovering from all these setbacks and these financial issues. I was worrying about it too much, and I'm not normally that kind of person. I'm normally super upbeat and just get on with it. But that day, for whatever reason, I was like, I don't even know if I can carry on doing this anymore. And then I got up to my bedroom in the hotel, and I saw that I had a message from Trey Menny, who's a booking agent for Beach House. He's a really nice guy. He said he'd just seen this band and I should check him out. He said they only played 3 shows, but he thought I might quite like it. And I was like, oh, I don't know. I'm just going to go to bed. I haven't got time to. I just need to stop listening to music. But I didn't. I didn't get into bed. Kept the computer open. I pressed play. And it was White Winter Hymnal, the demo version of White Winter Hymnal. And I think I played it 50 times before I actually turned the computer off and got into bed. And I was just like, oh my God, I have to sign this band. So I sent them this message and beautifully woke up in the morning to an equally effusive reply from Robin Pecknold, the singer and main writer of the band. And weirdly enough, he was in Norway. I mean, what are the chances? He was in Norway with his sister and his brother. Utterly bizarre coincidence.
Bella Union is the umbrella label for so many great bands. Beach House, who you've mentioned, one of your biggest, if not your biggest selling act now?
I would say so. Beach House and Father John Misty, I would say, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
But also a good pal of this show and someone we've been playing since he was unsigned, C. Duncan. And that's one of your next choices. It's Only a Love Song, which is the title track to his new album. It's a single as well.
There's something so beautifully romantic about C. Duncan's work, and I just think he should be number 1 at Christmas.
I agree.
You know what I mean? In my childhood, this would have been on Radio 2 all day, every day for a year. And C. Duncan would be like a household name in the same way that Gilbert O'Sullivan was. And that's not to say that his music is in any way middle of the road. I think it's just so beautiful and out of time, especially with what other people are doing. And that's why another reason I love it is that it's just pure classic, brilliant songwriting, emotional, and his harmonies and his writing and everything about it is just absolutely note perfect.
I mean, it pertains to the title of the book, In One Ear. I've known you for a little while, and I had no idea that you were deaf in one ear.
To be brutally honest, I kept it secret, certainly not from my family and family and close friends, but certainly from the industry at large, for many, many, many years, because I don't know, I was probably stupidly scared, I suppose, that maybe my credibility as a musician or a producer or an A&R person would be compromised by the fact that, you know, I could only hear with one ear. I mean, my own view of it is one ear is just as good as two. I'd love to, but, you know, it is what it is. And I've had it since I was 40. I've been deaf in that ear since I was 40. I was diagnosed with a brain tumor. I'm 62 now. I'm not, you know, there's no point not talking about it. It might actually give some comfort to other people that have been suffering with it. Where it comes from, what this kind of tumor is, nobody really knows. It's a bit of an unknown one. My own view on it is probably early mobile phones. I get on with my life. It doesn't really impact me in a negative way. I obviously do have it monitored regularly. I have MRI scans because it's a very, very slow growing tumor. It's like the size of a big lemon. So it's quite a considerable size, but thankfully it hasn't really grown that much in whatever it is, 22 years since I knew about it. Because what happens is it's a tumor that's attached to your nervous system. And the reason I'll never get my hearing back is because that's the part of my brain that it's mostly attached to. Now, if it grows, it's possible that I could lose balance, or I could lose the ability, the right hand side of my sight, or my right hand side of my mouth, or my arm, or my leg. That's a possibility. But the doctors have always said, look, but it might not. You know, you might be absolutely fine and just wake up one day and drop dead. You know, and I'd much rather it was like that anyway. I'd much rather be, you know, go quickly than have a horrible long illness. So I've just always thought, yes, I could have the tumor out. There's definitely two ways of dealing with it. You have it out, but you deal with the potential downside of what removing the tumor could do. It's very glutinous mass. And as soon as you start taking it away from where it is, you don't quite know what damage you might be doing to other nerves in your nervous system. So I've always thought, no, I don't like the sound of that at all. I'll just stick with not doing anything about it at all, which for me works better. And I've managed to make it work for me, but not everybody will. So you've got to follow your own instincts on it.
Well, you've been incredibly honest, candid, and inspirational, as I've said. It's always such a pleasure to see you at gigs and festivals, and lovely to have you on the programme. But you're going to leave us with one final choice, which is Paul Buchanan's Midair.
Well, the lyrics are really just absolutely stunning and do make me think of my father a lot. Paul Buchanan, and I could have picked any Blue Nile track, probably one of the most important bands in my life. When I heard the Midair record, I just felt that really touched me and actually made me quite emotional when I heard it. When I listened to what he was singing, it just really resonated with me. I don't even know if that's what he is talking about, almost like a ghost following you around, you know, looking after you. And that's what it means to me anyway. And I just think because of my dad and my unresolved relationship with him during my lifetime, I feel like I'm getting close to having some resolution with it. And a track like that really, I don't know, it really helps me make sense of it a lot more.
Brilliant. Well, thanks so much, Simon. It's been a pleasure. See you soon.
Thanks, Vic. Take care.
The buttons on your I see you everywhere. I want to live forever and
standing in midair. The girl I want to marry upon the high trapeze, the day she fell and hurt her knees. And only time can make him the wind that blows away the leaves. For everything that life was worth, the fallen snow, the virgin birth, yeah, I can see you standing in midair. I can see you standing in midair.
Vic Galloway on BBC Radio Scotland.